we've gone over a legend that we've lost, which is always unfortunate because a lot of these players have made big differences in whatever league they were playing in. And I know Tim had, a little story he wanted to share about him, so I'll let Tim take it away.
Yeah, so it was a really, obviously unfortunate coincidence because of the passing of Orlando. But I was telling my dad because, I've kind of just through card collecting lately, I've kind of, brought some things up to him and was just kind of showing him some things I got. But I actually just received this Orlando Cepeda
Nice.
signed card
Nice.
a couple days ago on Friday. And I was just wanting to share it with him because, it was kind of during the time of when he was starting to get into baseball and his, childhood and everything. So, he's like, oh yeah, he had texted me back that day and he's like, oh yeah, I actually, ate breakfast with him one time. And I'm like, wow, like that's a crazy story that I've never heard after 32 years of my life. And a cool one. And then, later that evening, I was listening to Dodgers Giants, on the radio, and then they kind of played back what the PA announcer said of, unfortunately, Orlando had passed and, they just wanted to, have a moment of silence for him between innings. And immediately I called my dad because, the coincidence was just so bizarre, just having
Mhm.
randomly talked about him earlier in the day. So I reached out to him and, my dad then, went over his story of meeting him because I was genuinely curious. And the story, it goes that they were traveling to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for my grandfather's, I guess, work trip at that time. But I think my dad and my grandma kind of made it into like a little mini vacation while they were there. So, but both his parents were kind of off, doing their thing. But my dad for breakfast went down, you know, 12-year-old kid, back in the day, just go down, at the street and get, some breakfast at the diner. So, he went down there and he was sitting at the countertop table, where all the servers and cooks are and, just was kind of sitting there by himself. Then in walks, Orlando and sat directly next to him out of the whole restaurant. And they were just kind of sitting there, but my dad kind of noticed he looked kind of nervous and anxious. So he actually, just out of a whim, turned to him and was like, "Hey, is everything going okay? You seem a little nervous today." And then Orlando turned towards him and he's like, "Yeah, I'm nervous. This is my first All-Star game I'm about to play in tonight." And I was like, as soon as he told me that, I'm like, wow. So, and he said he was just nervous. Obviously, it's a big platform. He's an
Mhm.
up and coming player, but, good enough to make that roster. And I actually went back and looked at the roster. And I mean, you had guys like Willie Mays on the roster. You had Hank Aaron playing at the time. It was just a tremendous team. But, they went on to, kind of discuss over breakfast, getting up to that point and, just kind of a little bit about themselves. But my dad finish off with just saying what an incredibly kind and humble person he was, almost to the point of being a little bit shy. So, it just speaks true to who he is, willing to pick up a conversation with a
Mm.
random 12-year-old boy at a cafe. So, rest in peace to Orlando, but really cool story.
That's
Shame I
awesome.
barely found out now, but, but yeah, really neat to hear about. It's a good sense of history. And, I think all of this might make my dad feel a little bit aged, but, really cool